So I'm going to make a video about um, relationships. And this one is going to be about when you decide it's enough. So this is going to be me telling my story about when I decided enough was enough. Um, love does go a long way, but I think in every situation, there is a point where you do need to draw a line. Whenever I was 16 years old, I met the person I thought I would be with for the rest of my life. It's obviously not that way now. It's just been me and my kids for the past 2 years. I was with him for almost 8 years. And so whenever our relationship started, it obviously started off really good, like any relationship does. In the beginning, it's really good, usually. So after a year of dating, um, I left him. I don't remember why, but I did leave him for like a month. And then we ended up getting back together. And then after that, um, I actually ended up getting kicked out of my mom's and my stepdad's house. Since I got kicked out, me and him got an apartment together. And then shortly after moving in together, I ended up getting pregnant. So after I told him that I was pregnant, he asked me what I was going to do about it. And I was like, what do you mean? What am I going to do? And he told me to get rid of it. So, yes, that should have been my first red flag, but I ignored it because I didn't know what it was. And so after that, that obviously really upset me. I asked him to tell his parents that I was pregnant, but he refused to. Like, I kind of felt like he was ashamed or just I didn't understand why. I just didn't understand why he wouldn't tell his parents that I was pregnant. So that I was like, okay, well, if you can't tell your parents that I'm pregnant, then I'm just not going to be here. So I think I went and stayed with my mom for a week. When he finally told his parents that I was pregnant, I came back. And we had good times, obviously. But then whenever I was about 6 months pregnant, he ended up hitting me in the stomach. We were both violent towards each other. I'm not saying that I was perfect. We both put our hands on each other, and that's something that you shouldn't do. We did have a lot of good times, but then we also had those bad times. And this was still early on in our relationship. So if you think about it, like all of these years that we were together, at that time the good outweighed the bad. So I guess, like, I don't want to say it was still okay because, those types of things aren't okay. Um, so we had our daughter, and while I was pregnant with her, we moved. And then after I had her, we had moved again to an on-campus, like, housing type thing. And there we lived there for a couple years. And then when she was about like 1.5. Yeah, she was 1.5 because when she was 2 years and 3 months, is whenever I had her brother. So, yeah, I had gotten pregnant with him there, and we had him there. So we lived there for a good while. I think we lived there for about 2 or 3 years. I want to say probably two. Yeah, probably two. Um, So yeah, and I think that the majority of the time that we lived there, we had pretty good times. Um, but after that, he started he started like talking to other women like ways that he shouldn't have been. I don't know. And I was snoopy. Like, I went through his phone and stuff. And I know that, that's personal stuff and you really shouldn't do that. But I just had this feeling in my stomach because I felt like I wasn't getting, you know, all of his attention. And I was right. I wasn't. Um, but I was pretty happy at that point in my life. I had my daughter and I now had my son, and they were both everything to me. They were both everything to me. They still are everything to me, and they always will be. Um, so, at that point in my life, I was actually very happy. And then, we lived there for a little while, and then when he was probably about 3 or 6 months old. I don't remember how old he was. We moved to actually these same exact apartments that we got pregnant with our daughter in. It obviously wasn't the same apartment, no, like same apartment, but it was the same apartment complex. So we moved into a 3 bedroom, and I actually liked those apartments. They had a really big pool and a gym and all that. Um, but yeah, we moved there, and at that time, he had worked at Walmart, and he had this friend that he would always talk to. Um, he said that nothing went on with them, but I I'm still not sure to this day if I believe that. Just by the way that they talked back and forth. He obviously had me and she had a husband, but that, a lot of the times that still doesn't stop people from doing things that they shouldn't do. Um, I'm not saying that he did do anything with her. It's just the way I felt, just by how they talked with each other. Um, but yeah, so he talked to her all the time, and I explained to him how it made me feel. And I had asked him to stop talking to her, and he obviously didn't. Um, and the bad thing is that whenever I read some of their messages, he actually talked bad about me to her. And still to this day, like people that I don't even know that he associates with, um, I get dirty looks from them. And, you know, I mean, that's my kid's dad. Like, whenever I meet new people or things like that, his name does not come out of my mouth in ways like that. Because it's very hard for me to, but I still have respect for him because he is the father of my kids. But it just irks me that people that I don't even know, I get dirty looks from. And I know why, because I know that they associate with him. So I know exactly why they're looking at me like that. But what can I do? So, I just ignore it because there's nothing I could really do about it. So, yeah, so that kind of upset me because we were together and he was talking bad about me to her and she was talking bad about me to him. And, I asked him, I'm like, well, why are you doing that? Like, you're supposed to defend me. You're supposed to be on my side. And he didn't give me an answer. So, yeah, that happened. And after that, like I just started feeling a certain type of way. And you know, um so after that, one is whenever I found out that he was like talking to other women the way he shouldn't. And then shortly after that, my next like big thing was I was looking for his wallet so I could go to the store, and I couldn't find it. So I looked in his bag that he takes to work, and I had looked in that for some reason to like see if he had put it in there. And inside of there, I found 5 pairs of women's underwear that, hello, obviously weren't mine. They were obviously hidden. And then whenever I asked him about it, he had said that he found them on the floor at Walmart. But, like, okay, so you work there. Like, why would you keep those? That's what I don't get. So I never believed that story either. I still to this day think that they were another woman's. That happened. And at this point, I'm still trying to keep us together. And at this point, it wasn't just for me anymore. Like I wanted my family together, not just for me, but for my kids. I came from a family where my mom and dad weren't together. So, and my dad wasn't in my life like he should have been. My stepdad, who was my stepdad for 10 years, is my dad. So, since my parents weren't together and I grew up with my parents separated, I never wanted that. Once I had kids, I always wanted my family together. I never wanted a separation or anything like that. And at this point, I have already gone through so much with him. But anyways, my point is that at this point in our relationship, basically every time we talked, it was an argument. Every time. And before we moved to Texas, I had left him for a month. So at this point, like, we were already together for like 6 years, 6.5 years. And in that time, I had already left him 3 times. And each of those times wasn't for a very long period of time. 2 of them were for like a month, and then 1 was for like a week. So yeah, so I guess they were just like breaks, But so at this point, I had left him for another month just because it was, our relationship was very stressful. It was constantly fighting, constantly yelling at each other, constantly arguing. It was a lot of stress. So yeah, so I guess they were just like breaks, But so at this point, I had left him for another month just because it was, our relationship was very stressful. It was constantly fighting, constantly yelling at each other, constantly arguing. It was a lot of stress. And, but I was still in love with him. I still loved him. I still wanted my family together. I don't know how many times at this last breakup for that month. I don't know how many times I cried myself to sleep because there's nothing I wanted more than my family to be together. I wanted my kids to have their mommy and daddy together. But like, I don't know. At this point, I probably should have already just left. It was very hard. There was several times that I just cried myself to sleep because I felt like I was doing something wrong. I did end up going back, and we had a conversation. He agreed to move to Texas with me. I didn't force him. He's from New Mexico and I'm from Texas. But I didn't force him to move with me. Before we got back together at that time, I said, whether you go with me or not, I'm still moving to Texas. And I had told him, if we decide to get back together and we move to Texas together, I said, don't think that just because we're moving to a different state, that if you don't change your ways, there's still a chance that I'll leave you. So we tried working on it again. And, finally, a few months later, we moved back to Texas and we got a place together. And, we were good for a little while. But, I think it was just because it was a new place and, it was a different vibe. And I really thought that maybe Texas would help us. But it didn't. So at this point in our relationship, after moving to Texas and after being hurt so many times, and I kept trying to fix it and I kept trying to work on us and I kept trying to change things, and you have for so long one person trying to make it work and trying to make it work and trying to make it work. And then finally, when that person is done and that person no longer cares, is whenever the person that was never trying before started trying. And honestly, I think that at that point, since I had been trying to fix our relationship for so long and he was in that mode where he didn't care, and then finally whenever I was in that mode where I didn't care and then he started trying, at that point, to me, it just didn't matter, because I knew that if I caved in and I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's try it. I knew deep down in my heart that it was just going to be the same thing over again. It was just going to be, a couple months of good, and then the cycle was going to repeat like it had before several times. After I left this last time, something happened to me that never happened to me before. Whenever, the other 3 times I left. So I had left a total of 4 times. The other 3 times, it was nothing but hurt, and I just wanted my family back, and I just wanted it to work, and I just wanted us together. But this last time that I left, something happened to me that had never happened to me the past 3 times. It was just honestly like a huge relief. A huge weight had lifted off my shoulders. So that is my story. And like I said before, when do you draw the line? When do you know enough is enough? For me, that was it. For me, it was feeling that relief and feeling that weight lifting off my shoulders. So once again, I would like to know y'all's stories. If anything like this has ever happened to you guys, I want to know the story. And what was enough for you? When did you decide to draw the line? I'm going to try and start doing the daily vlogs. And this is vlog number 1. And if you guys have any videos or any video ideas, then let me know and I will do it. Just go follow me on Instagram. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.